Well, hello everybody and welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to take a look at a deck that I never thought would see competitive play, but well, it's done pretty well, so I can't argue with it, and that is Arboliva EX with Teal Mask Ogerpon and the Meganium package. Obviously, I've covered Arboliva EX in the past with a Dust Noir package, back when, we didn't have, well, we had more options in the pre-rotation format. But obviously in the post-rotation format, where obviously we now have access to things like Forest of Vitality, Meganium, we obviously have Teal Mask Ogerpon, which can obviously hit like a freight train. And, we still have some 60 HP Pokemon in the format, and obviously, the spread potential of Arboliva is pretty good. So why not give it a try now and see how Arboliva EX is doing in this day and age, which, judging by the results, pretty dang well. So as per usual, in the description below there's going to be usual links, double the deck list, which is also available to copy in the description below. There's the games that will play, and the outro, what I think of the deck, and also my Discord server in the description as well, should you wish to join it. So like I said, I have covered Arboliva EX in the past. That was obviously when we had the Dust Noir package, and, well, a bit more easier access to the Dust Noir package. Because I think I played a 4-4-3 line, and it was this, well, 4-4-2 line, sorry, with Arboliva, and it was disgusting, but also very funny. But obviously, Arboliva is actually pretty good post-rotation, like we have a lot of, spread potential with its attack. We also have access to Aroma Shot, which we can actually get off in this attack, like in this deck, it's not a great attack, 160 is not hitting anything relevant, but, the option's there. If we've obviously used Oil Salvo to obviously, soften up something, and then we can just bonk it on the head. We could also use Oil Salvo and also Aroma Shots to hit active Pokemon that are weak to Dark, or weak to Grass, sorry, for weakness. Obviously, Aroma Shot means we can bonk an Absol on the face, which, judging by the last video with the Dragapult Blaziken, I'm going to need that. And while Oil Salvo means we can just take out monkeys, take out smaller fry, and just have a little bit of fun. Obviously, Oil Salvo does not hit Terra Pokemon like every other benched attack that obviously goes towards benched Teal, well, I say Teal, Terra Pokemon. Obviously, the only exception to that is damage counters, but obviously Oil Salvo does raw damage, so it's not, it's affected by it. Obviously, we do have Meganium in here. This is more for the Teal Mask Ogerpons, because obviously that's going to be our main hard-hitting attacker. And while Meganium can attack itself, Solar Beam for 140 is a relevant attack, but that's not really why it's here. It's obviously to, buff up our energy count. And of course, with 4 Teal Mask Ogerpon, I think we're going to get a lot of energy into play. What that also means is obviously Mirror Leaf Shower will be hitting some bonkers numbers like it has in the past. And Teal Mask Ogerpon is just a really solid attacker at the minute with this Meganium package. And when you combine it with a Pokemon that can just start, placing damage across the board, softening it up for Teal Mask Ogerpon, or, taking out some problem childs, like obviously Pult is pretty tough for this deck from what I've seen. So, it can be a case of, Arboliva, takes out a Dreepy or two, maybe even a Badoo whilst it's at it, softens them up and things like that. Then once Arboliva comes down, well, goes down, we have Teal Mask to just smack Pult in the face, and, well, not a lot Pult's going to do about that. The only thing this deck needs to watch out for is Moltres, which is why a lot of decks are playing Moltres, because this deck is pretty common right now. But obviously we don't really have a way to counter that, unfortunately. We don't really play a single prizer. Meganium is technically a single prize Pokemon, but we don't really use it for its attacks. So, yeah, we're going to be relying on 2 prizes today, but even so, it is still a pretty fun one. So, let's go to the deck list, and let's have a proper look. And welcome to the deck list. This is a pretty standard Arboliva deck, list and things like that. There's a lot of familiarity with some of the lists that you might have seen yourself from, online tournaments and things like that. I just took inspiration from a few different ones and, just compiled them into a list that I thought was just the best. And so far, this list has been pretty dang fun, to say the least. So, of course, we have 4 Teal Mask Ogerpon, 2 Chikoritas, 2 Bayleefs, 2 Meganiums, 2 Smoliv, 2 Dolliv, and 2 Arbolivas. Then, of course, we have 2 Meowths, 1 Fez, and, of course, onto the supporters now. We have 4 Lillies, 2 Dawn, 2 Boss, 1 Lana's Aid, surprisingly good card in the post-rotation format, quite slept on in my opinion. 1 Judge. I was not confident with this deck only having 1 form of hand disruption, which is our A spec, so I thought I'd just chuck in a Judge. It is searchable off Meowth at least. Then, of course, we do have Team Rocket's Petrel as a 1 count, which can be searched off Meowth. It's more for cherry picking, you know, unfair stamps or forests. Then, of course, we have the 4 Bug Catching Set, 3 Ultra Ball, 2 Energy Switch, 2 Night Stretcher, 1 Poké Pad, 1 Unfair Stamp as our race spec, 1 Air Balloon, 4 Forest of Vitality, and 12 Grass Energy. I'll be honest with you, you don't really need to change a lot out of this list. It's one of those lists that I think really doesn't need a lot of change. The only thing you could probably do is like add a Blood Moon as a Luna, and I don't even think you need that, to be brutally honest, because obviously, you know, Teal Mask is going to be bonking the 3 prizes and 2 prizes. Arboliva is going to be bonking the little guys, and, you know, Aroma Shot can obviously hit, you know, Grass Sweet Pokemon for weakness, i.e. Mega Zygarde, Mega Absol. So, you know, there's a lot of options in this list, and it's surprising how good it is. You know, like, I know that seems a bit of an odd statement, but when you consider, you know, like Arboliva before, you know, post-rotation, we thought this card was terrible. And, to be honest, most of us agreed with that statement. But, obviously, the Dusknoir version, whilst it is funny, you know, there's only so much you can do with that. But now that we have, you know, an attacker that can obviously be powered up with Meganium, and it's obviously, you know, attacks and stuff like that, Teal Mask can do or deal with what Arboliva couldn't, and Arboliva can do what Teal Mask couldn't, and that's deal with multiple single prizes in a single turn, if possible, of course. The only thing that obviously, you know, we'd need to consider is obviously a lot of 60 HP in Pokemon in the format, and obviously in the mirror, if they're able to get Arboliva first, we're probably going to lose both Smolivs, and that's just something we have to bear in mind. But the only thing that I would probably try and squeeze into this list, it would be a tight fit, but it would probably make sense, is at least 2 Monkey plus, you know, a Darkness energy of some description. The reason why I'm saying this is obviously that does affect our overall energy count, and obviously we won't really play a way to search said Dark Energy. But what that means is if Arboliva takes a hit, which in this day and age it actually can survive a hit or 2, Oil Salvo could then, you know, just have a bit more value. You could obviously, you know, double Adrenabrain if obviously you can get that off. You know, add some extra damage to the board. Oil Salvo can then take out even more targets. I don't know, just something to think about. Like, you wouldn't even need to change much from the list, to be brutally honest, but I don't know. I'm not sold on that idea because obviously, you know, you're adding extra, you know, awkwardness to the deck. Obviously, Monkey Dora takes up a bench space, which you'd ideally want with Teal Mask Ogerpon. The only other thing that I could think of is, you know, something like pairing Arboliva with Dragapult, which would be really funny to do. Might even try making that myself. You know, like having a 2-2-2 or at least a 2-2-1 maybe of Arboliva. But then just adding a Pult line to obviously, you know, give us consistency, but also, you know, Arboliva can just bonk something with Oil Salvo, which has been softened up by Pult. I don't know. I'm probably just rambling on a little bit here, but I think there's a lot more potential with this card than what we might think, you know, instead of just shoving it into a Teal Mask Meganium archetype. But I don't know, maybe something to think about. So let's get into a match and see how we do. And welcome to our first game. We've paired up against someone ironically in Teal Mask rank. This will be interesting to see. Kind of looking forward to see how this deck does, because I've played quite a bit of it, and it feels really good. I'm really impressed with how the deck is doing. Do I want to go first? We actually do, because, you know, it means we get Forest of Vitality first. Obviously, there is a risk involved with that, but hopefully it doesn't work out enough. Well, it does work out in our favour. Starting the Meowth, though, is kind of bad. That's not good, but it's not the end of the world, because also we do play 2 Meowths. This is sort of the reason why I'm playing 2. I've obviously been starting Meowth quite a bit. Oh, hello, it's a Team Rockets deck. This will be interesting. And well, we're not really doing a lot here, so I'm going to Ultra Ball away Judge and Energy Switch. And I will grab myself a Smoliv. We have prized a Smoliv. We've also prized a Bayleef and a Meganium. We've not prized any Teal Mask, which is good. Let's check the deck for anything else. Supporters look fine. We've got 1 Bug Catching Set in the prizes. Obviously, we just thrown away an E-Switch, but we don't really need that right now. We have got a Forest in the prizes, and we've also got a Grass Energy. But yeah, I'm just going to attach here. I'm going to pass. Obviously, my only concern is we need to find another grass energy to obviously get this Meowth at the active. But if we top deck a grass energy, I am going to Dawn for Arboliva and obviously Dolliv, because then I could just delete their board, which would be funny. So please, deck, you have 12 grass. That'll do, because I can at least bump the stadium and I can obviously, you know, Lilies into potentially what we need. Oh, now you're just rubbing my nose in it. We get an Arboliva, but we don't get anything to do with it. I'll attach to the Meowth, and I will pass. That is so unfortunate. I was really hoping for that. Because, I mean, we could Petrel for, you know, another sort of like, I'm trying to think of the word. You know, another consistency card, like, come on now. Come on, deck, please. There's the Dolliv. We're going to get an amazing donk, essentially, on a Team Rockets deck. So a free retreat into the Arboliva. I'll say free retreat, you know what I mean. Oil Salvo, bonk, 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 bonk. We love to see it. It's a shame we didn't get that going earlier, but I will take that. An effective donk on a Team Rockets deck. I'm sorry, Chef Husky, but that's why Arboliva's in the list. Let's go to a game 2. And welcome back to game 2. That was a pretty good start, and I'm glad we did do that donk, because that turned out to be, from what the card that was shown on the right hand side as I left the match there, that was a Team Rocket Zapdos, which that's normally played in the control builds, so I'm kind of glad we did delete that, but you know, it's not every day you get to do that. I'm glad we drew into a Dolliv and was able to do that. That's absolutely brilliant. Obviously, starting the Meowth was a little bit awkward, but because we had, you know, 11 grass available to us, I wasn't too nervous. So I'm pretty happy with that. That start, however, is, well, I mean, if it was going second, that'd be a good hand, but, well, I'm glad we're getting a mulligan here. They've also got Love Ball sleeves. I've never understood why we needed the Love Ball. Like, you know, there's some Pokeballs when you think about it, like, you just, I don't know what they were smoking. It's like Moon Ball in, like, Gen 2 and the Gen 2 remake. What were they smoking when they thought, oh yeah, we'll give a special Pokeball to something that can be evolved from a Moonstone? But anyway, they're probably going to figure out what we're playing from that, but I'm fine with that. We start the Teal Mask. We do need a Dolliv down, well, a Smoliv down, sorry, not a Dolliv. I've got a Dolliv in hand. The biggest Dolly is the one piloting this deck, but anyway, a Totodile. Why do I get the feeling I've seen this username before, but anyway. Well, there's a Smoliv and a Chikorita. I will take the Smoliv and Chikorita, but then again, I get an extra value off, you know, doing that, so I think that's fine. I'll take Smoliv and Grass Energy. I'll do that. I will Teal Dance to the Ogerpon. There's another Dolliv. I will attach to the Smoliv and pass. I'm not going to put this down because I don't want to, you know, give them any ideas. Why do I get the feeling I've seen this username before? I don't know. It's because of the Totodile. You don't see this Totodile. Why do I get the feeling I've seen this card somewhere? And this username. Snorunt. Okay. We're not going to be able to donk them because obviously we've got 150 HP total. We only do 120 with Arboliva. But we can take out the most important threat, which is the Snorunt. Put the rest on the Totodile. Another Poké Pad. Okay. From Monkey Dory. Right. Is this Mega Feraligatr? Another How many Poké Pads did you are stacking, man. This hand is stacked. Triple Poké Pad off the star. Like, bro. They're going to get a Dark Energy attached to the Totodile. And they're going to Lilies. I don't know. I just, because of the Totodile, I feel like I've seen this deck somewhere, but I don't know. Let's see what we get. That's fine by me. Okay, there's a Fez. We can evolve you now. We'll put the forest down and we will Lilies. That's not bad. I would like a grass, which we don't get. That's fine. I can grab another Smoliv, because we just drew into 2 Teal Masks. I'm happy with the immediate Arboliva pressure, but other than that, this hand feels kind of dead, I will say. I think that'll do it. So we'll Oil Salvo, take out the Totodile. So we need 4 clicks on that. And I'll put 1 click on each Snorunt. And that is fine by me. We just got to hope they don't have Mega Frostlass, because then we're getting bonked in the face for 350 damage. Which would be kind of bad, but we can come back from that, it's fine. Well, I can only apologise for the abrupt cut there. I got logged out of my account, so I had to, you know, re-log in and things like that. I'm going to count that game as a win, because they didn't really have anything going on. I'm not really sure what happened there, but I do apologise for the abrupt cut from, obviously, you know, me using Arboliva, then obviously setting up their board, then promoting a Snorunt. I can only apologise for that, but I was not expecting that, to say the least. And, do I spot a Smoliv? I will, actually. Let's change things up and start the Olive. Yeah, I've never had that happen before. I've been recording PTCG Live content for nearly 10 months, and I've never had that happen. I'm not really sure what happened there, but like I say, I'm going to count it as a win. You can obviously, you know, decide in the comments and things like that. But if anyone happens to know what happened there, because like I say, I've got no issue with my connection or anything like that, so I'm not really sure what happened. Anyway, let's not, you know, delve on the past, so to speak. Let's get playing. So we'll play that Bug Catching Set and get started. Teal Dance. Nice. Teal Dance. For an Ultra Ball, I can attach to the Olive, and I will pass. That is a good start. I will take that. Because we can Ultra Ball away this Grass Energy, plus the Judge, and we can actually grab Dolliv, then we can Meowth for Petrel, and we can actually get a turn 2 Arboliva. I think we're actually facing an Arboliva mirror, which would be hilarious. But that's just going to be down to who takes the first 2 prizes, which, in this case, I can do that, because, you know, I can potentially get something set up here. I could even retreat this Smoliv now, and go into Teal Mask, and get immediate Teal Mask pressure. And no, it is Mega Venusaur. Interesting. This will be really interesting. But yeah, like I say, I've never had that happen, but I'm going to leave that part in, you know, because that's technically still part of the match. But anyway, so like I said, I think what I do here is obviously Teal Dance as normal. There's a Lillies, that's fine. Well then, Teal Dance again. There's Meganium. So yeah, I'm going to Ultra Ball. In fact, I can just play Meowth, can't I? I don't need to. And again, no, I need to play. Actually, no, yeah, I need to. But then again, wouldn't I be better off Ultra Balling for... I'm just thinking here. I'll play the Ultra Ball anyway. I'll get rid of Judge and probably Meganium. I don't think I'll need it. Yeah, I've got second Meganium in deck, so it's not a big deal. I can grab myself a Chikorita to obviously get that basket going. I think I actually play Lillie's for turn instead, because if I can take the first 2 prizes, I'm in pretty good shape. Okay, that's looking good. Let's go for... Sorry, I was just having a bit of a moment there with my throat. Get the Dolliv and the Grass Energy. Poké Pad. I can get myself a Bayleef now. Do that. Because how much damage am I doing? I mean, I could just hit this for 10. Because then that makes it a little bit easier later. I can also, you know, go for Dolliv. But I think realistically, I evolved the Benched. Do I want to attack into this Teal Mask? I don't think I do. I think I just pass. The 10 damage isn't too relevant. The 10 damage isn't too relevant, but obviously Forest of Vitality is giving them a big advantage in this instance. I really wish we could have gotten an attack off, but we was just a card short. We was off the Meganium, which we needed Meganium to actually do that. So getting rid of the Meganium earlier was actually a misplay. But obviously I wasn't to know I was going to, you know, draw into a way to search a Meganium. Or a Bayleef in this case. There's Dawn. This is not good. So they've got Venusaur, and then I know they have a Venusaur in hand. But if they attack with the Venusaur, that's good for us. Because that's a 3-prizer swinging into an Olive. I mean, well, you know, it's a very cartoonish looking Olive, but you get the point. But no, I'm not annoyed about the fact that that issue happened, because obviously I have had PTCGL issues pop up in, you know, videos before and stuff like that. But it's just more the fact that, you know, it just happened in that instance. Like, it just immediately cut me out of the game. No warning, no connection issue or anything like that. Are they really going to attack me with Mega Venusaur? There's no way you attack with Venusaur here, right? No, they're retreating into another Teal Mask. Why? Sure. So, how much energy am I going to need on this Teal Mask to actually bonk this on the head? I'm going to need a lot. So let's go for a Teal Dance. I mean, to be fair, I can just take the first 2 prizes. I'm not really worried. You know, like, there's not really many options for my opponent here. I'm just going to play the Lilies. Okay, there's Arboliva. That's good. I can evolve that onto the bench. I think I'm going to want to, you know, attack with Teal Mask this turn. 240, yeah, that's enough. So we will Teal Dance the one on the bench. That's fine. I'll go for a Bug Catching. I will definitely take those. I've also noticed the game's starting to lag a little bit, so I am a bit concerned about that. I'll attach to you on the bench, and I will mirror Leaf Shower for 240, take the knockout on the Teal Mask. First 2 prizes are pretty important in this matchup, and because we don't play a Mega, we are in the advantage here. Because if they come up with Teal Mask Ogerpon, I can potentially get a swing into the Mega Venusaur and go from there. I can even stamp them, which is nice. But yeah, I'm kind of annoyed because, like, my opponent didn't really have anything going on. If they had Mega Frostlass plus, you know, energy, that would have been good for them. But even then, I could still respond into them with a Teal Mask. You know, it's not like I didn't have any options there. But now they can Teal Dance. We're just going to be trading massive blows now. But the nice thing is, like I said, I took the first 2 prizes, which is the important thing. It's just how many energy do I need to actually do it? So, hold on a sec. 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 180, 210, 240, 270, 300, 330, 360, 390. I could do it. It's a lot of investment, but I could do it and bonk this on the head, and then all I have to do is Arboliva for game. That could be my plan. They're going to retreat into the Mega. Okay. But if you don't attack with this turn, I can still kill it. It's, you know, you're not really in a good position here, mate. He's going to boss, go for my Meganium. Makes sense. He's going to attach Growing Grass Energy. So now it's at 400 HP. I don't think I can kill this now. I mean, either way, he's still committing 4 energy to this. So if I can get this Meganium re-established, we should be okay. Because I can just go Meowth for Lana's Aid. I think I had Lana's Aid in deck. But let's see. I'll promote the Teal Mask. And we will draw for turn. So let's play down the Meowth. I'm pretty certain I had Lana's Aid in deck. I did. Excellent. So we'll play the Lana's Aid. We'll go bam, bam, bam. And because, let's be real, this forest ain't going anywhere, Chief. We can do all this. No, don't do that. We can do that. How much damage am I doing? 390, so I don't even need to commit anything to the active. Well, in fact, no, I need to commit 1 energy to the active, but that's fine. So then I will Teal Dance again. That is fine. I'll get a turn attachment onto Arboliva and eat this stamp, boy. The stamp isn't hugely like a problem for him, but the fact that I'm taking 3 prizes here is a problem. Because obviously he only took 1 prize card. He focused down the Meganium when he really shouldn't have. There's both my E-switches at the prizes. That's good then. It just means if he puts down a single prizer, I win with Arboliva. If he puts a Teal Mask in the active, I win with Teal Mask. He is going to see 9 cards though. Plus more if he can obviously use Ogerpon this turn. But, you know, outside of, you know, getting enough grass energy into the board, you still need Meganium. You can park the Venusaur in front of me, but you don't know I play E-Switch, which I think is a really good card in this list, and really should be considered. But anyway. He's got a Teal Dance. Did he pick up the Venusaur? No, he grabbed the grass energy. Because has he flipped the script? Yeah, he has. Yeah, okay. There's not really a lot he can do here. I mean, you know, the most he can do is boss my Meganium. That's it. Or he can park the, you know, the Mega Venusaur, you know, in front of me and hope I don't have enough energy to knock it out. But that would rely on me not having access to a boss or anything like that, so I don't think my opponent really has any option. And there we go, they're going to scoop it up. I don't blame them. Really, really good showcasing for, you know, Mega, well, I say Mega, Teal Mask Ogerpon, it hits like a Mega is all I'll say. And the Arboliva package. Obviously we didn't get to use Arboliva that game, but I am pretty happy with that result. It's just a shame I had that technical issue, which, like I say, I'm going to have to, obviously, you know, edit that part out, but that's not too difficult. Because, you know, personal information and all that jazz. But yeah, other than the technical issue, what did I think to this deck? This deck is cracked. Like, I'm sorry, this deck is insane. The fact that you can just do so much with Arboliva, and then use Teal Mask to obviously, you know, smack your way through anything. Even with the growing grass energy, we was just able to hit stupid numbers with Teal Mask Ogerpon. The growing grass energy, because obviously it's a special energy, it has to be attached per turn. It can't be accelerated via Teal Dance and all that jazz. It really shows how powerful it can be. And, you know, the fact that we have this double wombo combo of, you know, Arboliva plus Meganium into Teal Mask and things like that is actually kind of bonkers. Now, I don't think we need to add any more attackers to this list. I really don't think we need Bloodmoon Ursaluna in this list. I think I just said it out of impulse, because obviously Bloodmoon's a really good late game card, but as we saw, we didn't really struggle in that regard, and obviously if we can get Meganium established, we don't really have many problems in that regard. But honestly, this deck is insane, and if you want to try it, it's in the description below, as stated at the start of this video. But yeah, I think this is a deck we need to keep an eye out for, because this deck feels really strong. The fact that it has so many different lines, and the fact that, you know, if you're against Dragon Ball Dusknoir and they start benching Ghosts ready to start, you know, popping stuff, you can just bonk 2 Ghosts on the head and then you use your Teal Mask to just whack a Port in the face. Feels really strong, and I just think this is a really strong deck going forward. Do I think it's going to be top dog in post-rotation, you know, when we get into obviously the live play in person? No. I think its over-reliance on, you know, Meganium obviously makes it a bit more of a target. Obviously this deck, whilst it's not weak to hand disruption, unlike some of the other decks in the format, I think just a case of, you know, the resource investment to get Teal Mask to that swing, so to speak, is what can potentially hold it back. But at the same time, as you saw in that game, if you get set up, you are just destroying your opponents, and it's not even close. You know, that Mega Venusaur, he probably thought, yeah, 400 HP, that's going to do the trick. No, especially not when you commit 4 energy to your Venusaur, because that's the only way you're attacking, and you turn attack a growing grass energy, hoping that was enough. The fact that we could just hit these bonkers numbers is what's really going to give this deck a really good advantage going forward. The only major thing you need to be careful of is obviously Moltres. Moltres would farm this deck quite badly, because obviously your main attacker is Teal Mask Ogerpon. The only way in which you could counter this is, you know, if we had something that, you know, like, obviously we don't have Protective Goggles in the format anymore, because that was a card that you could put on a basic Pokemon, which obviously Teal Mask is, and it stops it from having weakness. But obviously, we don't really have anything like that in the format right now, so that's just something you have to bear in mind. If you start seeing Moltres, maybe a grass single prize attacker with obviously, the ability to deal with Moltres, but also, pull its own weight outside of just dealing with Moltres, could be something we consider. Another thing, obviously, I'm playing Energy Switch on my list, which I think is pretty fair. That can obviously be bought into the idea. But otherwise, I don't think a lot needs to change about this list. I'll be brutally honest with you. But anyway, I really hope you enjoyed seeing Arboliva EX with Teal Ogerpon. I do apologise for the technical issue about 3/4 halfway through the video. That is unfortunate, and well, hopefully it doesn't happen again, because obviously I can't really counter PTCG Live. But yeah, I really hope you enjoyed seeing this deck in action. I had a blast playing it, and I really hope this deck stays relevant, because I might just build this IRL, because I have plenty of Teal sat in my binder, and not a single Arboliva, but I'm sure I'll pick some up at some point. Anywho, I'm going to leave you all to it, and I'll see you next time.